A new trend is developing within the NBA that could be catastrophic for the league. The idea of player movement, players requesting trades, leaving teams in free agency, has really been the foundation of what has been a real increase in the interest of the NBA over the last decade or so. You can go back to LeBron's decision, KD going to the Warriors, these super teams being built, star player movement, and the league being a stars league. They control the league. They are the most powerful figures in the league. They are the most interesting figures in the entire league. That has been foundational to the NBA and their growth over the last decade. But we're getting to the point where even I, someone that makes content about free agency, about trades, about player movement, about roster building, and this is like what I do, this is my livelihood, even I am starting to wonder if things are going too far, specifically with the Damian Lillard as well as some other situations that we have seen recently, of course, James Harden as well. And here's the trend. This is the difference. So it used to be over the last decade, if you are a star player and you get drafted to a team and you're really good, then you sign the rookie extension, you play that out, and then, aka LeBron, Chris Bosh, D-Wade at 2010, you have an opportunity in free agency to explore your options, go elsewhere, and sign a big money deal if the team that drafted you is not surrounding you with the proper talent to try and win a title. That used to be how things would go, is you would use free agency to jump teams and create these super teams. Then things developed a little bit further where you went from, okay, rather than going all the way to free agency, I'm going to request a trade to a specific team that might not have the cap space to sign me outright. I don't want to be limited by cap space teams. I want to pick my team, and the leverage that I'm going to use is the fact that I have 1 year, 2 years left on my deal. Think about when Paul George got traded from Indiana to OKC. Think about when Anthony Davis got traded from New Orleans to the Lakers. These guys had a year left. They said, you know what? I'm going to leave in a year. I just am. I'm going to sign somewhere else. Trade me now so you can get value. And then you let all the other teams around the league know, hey, you can trade for me if you want to, but I only have 1 year left on my deal, and I will leave your team if you trade for me. And if you're Oklahoma City, if you're Indiana or you're New Orleans, if you want the best package in return for me, you have to trade me to the Lakers. You have to trade me to whatever the case may be, because that's the only team that I want to go to and re-sign with. And none of these other teams are going to want to give up significant assets in order to get a guy that they might lose in a year. That's how things used to be. Now, I've heard this referred to, I think this is the best description of it for those of you that are in the States and follow college sports. The transfer portal era in the NBA is in full swing, because we've gone from all those different things, which are very exciting, very interesting, free agency, trade request with a year left on your contract, to just sign the contract. Just sign the deal. Don't think about your free agency. Don't think about what team you're on. Don't think about the situation that the team is on. If someone puts on your table 5 years, $250, sign the deal and figure it out later. It doesn't matter if it's your rookie extension. It doesn't matter if you're a veteran like Bradley Beal and you're 29, you've been in the league for 10 years and you get the super duper duper max. Just sign the deal and figure it out later. Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard. These guys are just going to get the money first, and then they're just going to request a trade later. And the most recent development of this that really makes this a catastrophic development for the league is what's happening with Damian Lillard. If you can do all of that, if you can, yes, he was loyal to Portland and, congratulations to him. But if you can do all that and you can continually sign 2-year contracts that add $120 million to your deal, you can just continue to do that and get rid of your opportunity to sign elsewhere. Free agency exists as a way for players to switch teams if they really want to go to a particular team and they have the resources to sign them. That is your way that you are supposed to switch teams. Yes, players get traded all the time, but primarily if you're a star, free agency exists, you can trade, so you can switch teams, right? But now, someone like Damian Lillard, they're signing away their right to switch teams in free agency by continually signing contracts to play for, in this case, the Portland Trail Blazers. And if you can push that right away and then still end up in the situation that you want to while getting all the money and while forcing your team, this case Portland, to trade you to only one specific team, in this case Miami, that completely ruins the fabric, the foundation of what has made the league interesting over the last couple of seasons. If that's the way that this is going to work, then free agency basically doesn't exist anymore for star players. You just sign the big contract and then you say, you know what, I'm out, trade me there. Because in Dame's case, he's telling teams, if you trade for me, Brooklyn, if you trade for me, Utah, I'm not showing up to training camp. I'm holding out. There's no point in trading a ton of assets the way that you would have to normally to trade for Damian Lillard if the guy's not going to be happy and he's not going to show up. And this is such an extraordinary and a terrible development for the NBA, because then free agency doesn't matter for stars. It's a big way that the league drives interest. And there's like, you think there's no player loyalty now? There's going to be absolutely zero now moving forward, because the contract means nothing. Jaylen Brown signing a supermax with Boston eventually means nothing. Yeah, obviously James Harden switching teams constantly. Like, I don't have an issue with players switching teams. I don't have an issue with players making as much money as they possibly can. It was clear that when Bradley Beal was signing little extensions to get to the 10-year mark, he wanted the super duper max from Washington, and then he was going to figure it out later. It was clear that Dame continually wanted to add as much money to his deal as he could, and then obviously eventually he requested a trade. I don't mind any of that. Change teams, make as much money as you want. Separately, individually, those are totally fine for the league. When you put them together, and you make as much money as you want to on an individual contract from a team, and then also request a trade to one specific team, it completely changes the fabric of the league, and really is damaging not only to your relationship with your fans if you're a fan of an individual team, but it lessens the interest in the league, because contracts mean nothing. Like, the whole point of this is you're supposed to be able to point out, hey, this is a thing that could happen. This is a thing that could happen. Maybe this guy's going to leave as a free agent. Maybe he's going to request a trade. He's got a year left on his deal. But if a contract means nothing, it is so damaging to the NBA. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, Tucker, you're kind of overreacting to this a little bit. Okay, well, here's the biggest point of the entire video. The reason that a trade request for a star and then being moved for an all-NBA caliber player, the reason why that stuff is fine, why it works, is because you're getting pretty much equal value. You're not getting the exact amount of value of an Anthony Davis, of a Damian Lillard, of a James Harden, of whatever. Like, those guys are worth a lot, and it's really difficult to piece together all these assets that actually equals up to that star. However, when you're trading away Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Damian Lillard, yes, it's unfortunate if you're the team that has that player, but at least you're getting a lot of value in exchange. It's what makes all of this work, is you're kind of taking a step backward to take two steps forward if you're Oklahoma City being forced to trade away Paul George because Kawhi wants to go to the Clippers, or you're the Pelicans trading away Anthony Davis, getting all that stuff from the Lakers, or you're the Nets trading away KD and getting all that stuff from Phoenix. That value that you get in exchange for the star, that is what makes all of this work. And if you take that away, if a player is on a massive contract so that they're not worth as much as they age, and they only want to go to one specific team, then you're getting like 50% value in exchange for a star rather than 80 to 85%. And that is where everything starts to break down. Yes, there's going to be less interest in the league. Yes, there's going to be a lack of loyalty from fans to players to teams, but the lack of value in exchange for stars in a trade completely changes everything about how this player movement stuff works. There's a lot of people out there that say that player movement in general is bad for the NBA, and you can have that opinion if you'd like to, but overall it's good for the league. It's good to have interest, and it's the best 365 day a year sport that there is. But part of the reason for that is because people like to understand where their team is going. They like to understand a lot of the team building stuff. It's why my channel gets any viewership whatsoever, is because people are interested in how things are going to shift moving forward, which teams are on the way up, which teams are on the way back, why are they making the moves that they are. And if suddenly we're looking at a situation where maybe Damian Lillard goes for like the equivalent of Tyler Hero plus 2 first-round picks because the only place he wanted to go to was Miami, and he's holding his team in Portland hostage. If that's the point that we get to, where you sign the big contract, you pick exactly where you want to go, and you limit the assets that you get in exchange as the incumbent team, that is, I'm not going to say it's going to ruin the NBA. They'll figure it out, but it's about as bad of a development of the player movement era as you go into this transfer portal era as you can possibly have.